this video, I'm going to take you through one of the leading SEM or search engine marketing products on the market, show you what I like about it, show you what I think Ahrefs does a little bit better, and ultimately give you a recommendation as to which product I think you should buy. It's really going to depend on whether you're an SEO power user, in which case you're probably going to want both. If you're doing paid traffic or looking primarily for organic traffic data, SEMRush is going to be a better fit. And if you really want to go granular with backlink analysis, I recommend Ahrefs. So that's the TLDR for you guys, but I'm going to jump into a walkthrough of what the dashboard looks like and how I use it on a daily basis before summarizing those recommendations for you at the end of the video. But wanted to give you those recs right up front in case you're just looking to make a snap decision. I know some of you are. Now, I've been using SEMRush since 2011 or 12, probably. I used to use Majestic SEO. I believe it's still a product, but it's definitely not what it used to be. They were the market leader at one point 8-9 years ago. They no longer are. Now I would say it's a neck and neck race between SEMRush and Ahrefs. And again, each of these products has their pros and cons. I wouldn't say that one is head and shoulders above the other. I tend to use Ahrefs a little more on a daily basis, but SEMRush has some really indispensable features that I'll show you now. So the first thing that I really like about SEMRush is I just think they have a very easy to digest dashboard. It's designed well, especially when you consider how much information they're trying to show you. There's really a ton of info here, right? So you got competitors, keywords, links, on-page and tech SEO, and then rank tracking. And then that's not even going into like local SEO, advertising. There's even a new client panel feature, a client manager that they recently introduced. So there's really a lot going on. You can see how coming up with an interface to showcase all of this data would be a pretty tricky UX design challenge. And SEMrush actually has done, in my opinion, a very good job of showing that data in a clear, concise way. So usually what I'll do with SEMrush is I'll just start with domain overview. I don't look at authority score. I tend to rely more on Ahrefs domain rank. So this to me doesn't hold a lot of weight, but the organic search traffic data, in my opinion, is pretty accurate. What you're going to find, some sites are more accurately, their traffic data is more accurate in Ahrefs. Some sites, their traffic data is more accurate in SEMrush. Overall, I think I give SEMrush a slight edge here. I find the data to be a little more accurate in general. Obviously, there are exceptions to that, but yeah, I run over 20 different sites, and their organic traffic, the SEMrush organic traffic measurement is usually within about 15, maybe 20% accuracy of the sites that I run. So it's another way to say that is, yeah, it's 80% accurate with a 20% margin for error. So yeah, looking at organic traffic is really useful, and then organic feature or organic keywords as well. So here you can toggle, if you just wanted to see the top 3. So this is pretty interesting because, as you may know, if you're watching this, there's really a massive difference between being the top result and the second result in Google. And if you're just looking at organic keywords overall, like the net number of keywords that your website ranks for, you might see that trending up over time and think, that you're in a really good situation, when in actuality, you might not be. What really matters is, are you ranking in the top 3, and are people clicking through and sending you traffic? So here you can really get granular here with figuring out exactly how your keywords are distributed. And then you can also do that, just one sec, in more detail in the organic search traffic tab, which I'll show you in just a moment. Also really like the paid traffic data that SEMrush gives you. This site is just a random basketball niche site that I found before making this video. They're not running paid traffic. Most affiliate sites aren't. But paid traffic data is definitely a highlight of the SEMrush product. Another thing I like are the SERP features. So SERP is search engine results page. And basically you can see what you're ranking for. This is relevant because Google is, as you might know, if you're doing anything in SEO, it's constantly evolving, right? So years ago, if you got position number 2, position number 3 for a competitive search term, you'd be happy, you'd be making money, all would be well with the world, right? Now what's happening is Google's really extracting a lot more data to that SERP, that search engine results page. And as a result, just knowing that you rank number 2 or number 4 for a term doesn't really tell you that much about the traffic that that you're going to get from it. So with this, you can dive into your site or a competitor site with more granularity and see, okay, like where do most of the where does most of the traffic come from? Is it purely from organic results, or are there images that are driving traffic? Are there videos, knowledge panels, etc.? So really a useful feature, and definitely one that I think just shows the complexity of SEO as Google continues to evolve and become more complex. Now, going on to the next tab here, I've got Backlink Analytics. Spoiler alert, I don't love SEMrush for backlink analysis. I tend to use Ahrefs. Part of that, honestly, is I'm just more comfortable with Ahrefs. I've been using it as a power user more frequently than I have SEMrush. I think I've been a SEMrush user longer overall, but I just tend to go to Ahrefs for the day-to-day. I think that's partially just because I'm more comfortable with it, partially because the backlink analysis feature is a little bit better in Ahrefs, but it's still pretty solid in SEMrush, especially if you're not really getting like super granular. So what you can do here is just look at overall number of referring domains and then backlinks. Really the key number to focus on is referring domains. And then you can also look at this authority score. Authority score approximates how strong a website is in terms of the number of links coming in. It's a logarithmic scale, which basically means that it gets progressively harder. So it's harder to raise your authority score as you go higher. So it's really easy to go from 1 to 10 with a handful of backlinks. It's exponentially harder to go from 80 to 90 to raise your authority score by 10 higher up on the scale. And then referring domains is useful. The distinction here, backlinks tells you the total number of links to a website. Referring domains is simply the number of linking websites, right? Because one website could have multiple links coming from it to your website or to a competitor's website. So kind of a rookie mistake that a lot of SEOs make is they'll look at backlinks and they'll go, oh, my site has 10,000 backlinks. I should be ranking perfectly. Well, I should be ranking really well. Well, those 10,000 backlinks could be coming from literally just one website, right? Depending on how it's constructed, if it has outgoing footer links, etc. So referring domains gives you a good just approximation for what kind of link building you're going to have to do to compete in this niche. And then obviously you see monthly visits and keywords. So, but in this section, I really just want to dive into backlinks. And so what you would do, categories and top anchors are sort of useful, but really what I would do is just basically export the, sorry, it's been a while actually since I've done backlink analysis here. I usually do it in Ahrefs. So here, go to backlinks, and then what you're going to do, or what I would do, is basically set up some basic, some simple filters. So like I want to see no follow, and then I don't really care about links per referring domain, or actually let's just say one, because here we can filter out some of the noise if a site is linking multiple times, and then sponsor. Does anybody use the sponsor tag? Somebody answer in the comments. It's been a while since I looked into that, but I thought that was kind of a funny thing that Google rolled out, and I'm skeptical that anybody's ever going to use it. And then how's this sorted? Authority score. So let's make sure we sort high to low. So now it's a little high. Okay, interesting. So I would have expected that the top links had a higher authority score than 52. Apparently not. So this is basically what you do with the backlinks. You want to sort by power, high to low. I would filter out the no follow. So you just see the do follow. Basically no follow isn't going to pass what we call link juice or link equity. So it's a mostly irrelevant link type, whereas follow is a powerful link type. So actually here, am I filtering only on? Okay, yeah, so these should be follow. And then, so that's my bad. Initially, I filtered on no follow. So these are the do follow links. And then I click export. And then from there, you're basically just looking through each of these links and you're going, okay, how did this site build this link? Is it organically earned through a press mention, an editorial mention, some kind of content they've created? Is it a fabricated link through like a guest post? Is it a directory link? And you basically just try and parse out the trends. And then what you'll be able to suss out pretty quickly is how is the site building its links? And obviously that varies. You might also, as I look at these, because I do see some links going to images. Yeah, so it also probably, once I export it, I'd probably filter out links to images as well, because those tend to be scraper sites. And yeah, armed with this, you'll have a lot of data, and you can start working through a competitor's backlinks and figuring out what is their link building strategy, and then make an honest assessment as to whether you can outcompete them or not on a link building basis. So that's backlinks with SEMrush. Now, next thing, organic keywords, organic research. So yeah, here you're just looking at overall traffic trends. Man, it gets pretty it gets pretty noisy here. So every one of these G's represents a Google update, I believe. You can see we haven't had very many of these. um, and then you can see what they're ranking for, right? And then this shows you, because again, I think the key thing to understand is that these search engine results pages, they're really dynamic, now in 2021 more so than ever before. So monitoring whether keywords are moving up, moving down, whether the SERP is changing, right? Which I showed you how to do in that initial, in this initial tab here. You can look at the SERP features. This is really, really super important. And this is actually one of the reasons I use multiple tools. It's because you sort of have to use SEMrush and maybe a rank tracker and maybe also Ahrefs to triangulate data, because what I see from my computer, wherever I am in the world, is going to be different than what you see when we're searching for the same keyword potentially. You might get a local result, I might not. So there are a lot of like different variables. So what that means is it's hard to say that, okay, this is like single truth for Google objectively across the entire world. If somebody searches best basketball shoes, they're going to see the site in position number 2, maybe at one point, but now Google is just a lot more complex, and you might see entirely different results than somebody else. So that's why sometimes using multiple softwares is really useful, because you can take the data from each one and triangulate it to form a really accurate picture of how your site or a competitor site is performing in Google. Now that's for more advanced SEOs, right? If you're just looking for something that's directionally pretty damn accurate and that you're going to log into maybe on a daily basis, but you're not going to go super, super granular with, then just get SEMrush. It's a perfectly great research tool. It really is. Or just get Ahrefs, if you find that suits you a little more. Click the link in the video description below, take out a free trial of SEMrush, and just see kind of how you like it on a day-to-day basis. Because a lot of this does come down to what are the individual features you're using, and just you might just have like a design preference for one of these over the other. You might find one more intuitive than the other. I find SEMrush a little more intuitive from a keyword perspective, at least with these graphs here. I really like these, where you can see, how a site is ranking, what percentage of its keywords are in the top 3, 4 to 10, etc. What else? And then, position changes is useful, because again, these SERPs are pretty dynamic. And then, shows you where the traffic is coming from, like what specific search features is coming from. So here, this is kind of, let's take a short answer to a user's query that, So just a moment. So here you could see, like, is it ranking for, somewhere in the featured snippet, which is where Google extracts the data and displays it directly in the Google search engine. Obviously, more and more of this where Google is extracting data, but not necessarily giving you a link back to the site. It is what it is. So what I would do if I were running keyword analysis is I would export organic keywords that my site ranks for, if it ranks for any, and then I'd basically try to identify any keywords between positions 2 to 5 or 2 to 6. And then those are the ones you really want to focus on after sorting from volume high to low, because you're going to get a very large uptick in traffic if you can bump up from position 2 to position 1, whereas bumping up from position 9 to position 6, it's not really going to do much for you in most SERPs, right? So that's usually how I use the organic keywords tab is, if it's for my own site, I just export and then sort volume high to low, and then position, create a filter in Excel for 2 to 4, and then look at the links going to each of those pages and work out which ones I think I could jump up in rank with a handful of links. And with competitors, it's a similar approach, just looking at volume and basically doing sort of a qualitative assessment of looking for things with high search volume, a low amount of links, and then some commercial intent, right? Because that's the other thing. The last thing I'll mention with organic keywords here is something like this. It's got best in it, or basketball shoe reviews, has reviews in it. These are buyer intent keywords, right? That shows that there's a strong purchase intent. Whereas somebody searching for what is a basketball hoop or where to put a basketball hoop in the front yard, they're also potentially looking to buy, but they're probably going to be further up that funnel. So really making sure that your keywords have strong buying intent is important. That's a rookie mistake I see a lot of SEOs make. They get really excited when they rank number one for a term, and then you look at the term and it's one of very little commercial value. So keep that in mind if you're not, if you're relatively new to this. And keyword gaps. So this is another useful feature with keywords. You can plug in a competitor, and then it can show you where the overlap is with that competitor, and then where that competitor has more links than you. So here, this is really a niche set that I put in the Hoops Geek, so I wouldn't expect them to have a crazy amount of keywords. And then Where Testers is also arguably a niche site, but a much, much bigger one, maybe one funded with some venture capital money. I don't know, but it's definitely a stronger brand, a bigger brand than the Hoops Geek. So I would expect that this keyword keyword circle would be a lot larger. So that just sort of gives you an approximate size of a website as far as the keywords it ranks. And then you can see, okay, like where do we overlap? Where do we not overlap? Does the site have some keywords that I could potentially steal? And then backlink gap. So same concept as with the keyword gap, except it's going to show you where a site has backlinks that you don't have, or where you share backlinks with the site. So really useful feature. The key, as with most things link building, or the key as with most things link building, is you really need to be sure to filter out the noise, right? So like, and that's where filters in Excel really come in handy. So like here, you'll see that if I just relied on what SEMRush was telling me, I put in my guy, the Hoops Geek, I put in Where Testers, and then it's basically by default giving me the best prospects for my domain, best quote unquote. What do I see for the number one recommendation? Google. Why? Because it's probably sorting by authority score, high to low. Is Google actually a good place for me to try to get a link for my niche basketball website? No, not really. I mean, it's just basically scraped it up into a search index, and somewhere along the way, there's a link to it. So this is where you'll need to, make use of filters and filter stuff out pretty aggressively. Like I'd filter out all GitHub. I don't want to see that. USA 2 days, potentially interesting. So I jump into that. Something like Weebly, this is probably user-generated content, but it's got a high authority score because the root domain, Weebly.com, is really powerful. Forbes, maybe these guys got an editorial mention in Forbes. Maybe they paid for one. This is also a thing that happens in SEO. People pay interns and low-paid journalists that work at Forbes, Inc., etc., for a link placement. Maybe that happened. So I'd look into that. Business Insider as well. So some of these I would chase down, others I wouldn't. Constant Contact, that's probably the result just of a newsletter that was sent out by Hoops Geek. And that by default, I think there's a way to set your newsletter to public, so that when you send it via Constant Contact, it's then published on the Constant Contact site. So that's probably how I'm sure that is how this link was created. So anyway, you're just going to work your way through it. Behance.net, high authority score, but probably user-generated content. Maybe these guys at the Hoops Geek built a few sketchy backlinks here, so I won't really look into this. NBA.com, very interesting. Where did the Hoops Geek get a link from at NBA.com? So you see, it's kind of hit or miss, right? Some of these I know from experience not to follow up on. Others I absolutely would. But yeah, really, once you get this, a lot of the work's going to be done in Excel, applying filters, sorting authority score high to low, and just working out which of these links you can replicate and which ones you can't. So yeah, don't be afraid of Excel, and be sure that you're using a lot of filters there, because that's really the only way to sort through all this noise, right? I mean, there are 7,000 referring domains here, so you'll need to set up some filters. Now, just because I wanted to show you guys like a comparison, this isn't going to be a SEMrush Ahrefs side-by-side comparison video. I am going to do that in an upcoming video, which I'm going to link to at the end of this. So if you want to see that, keep watching, and that's going to be the next video that shows here at Reviewsy. If you're ready to buy, go ahead, click the link. There should be a 7-day free trial with discount applied. And if you just wanted a little more info, but you didn't want to sit through an extensive side-by-side comparison of the two products, then this section's for you, because I'm just going to show you quickly what Hoopsgeek looks like in Ahrefs as compared to in SEMrush. So the first thing, if we're just doing a side-by-side, so let me go back to, so here's domain overview. This is the default. Here's the Site Explorer overview. Yeah, I guess the first thing is, if I were just assigning points for design, I think aesthetically, SEMrush looks a little bit nicer. It just has a slightly more modern looking design to me than Ahrefs. But as far as the ability to capture all of the essential information for an SEO, I think Ahrefs probably does that a little bit better. So visually, I don't find this design as pleasing, but as far as me trying to get the information I need, which is really ultimately why design really matters, that's the purpose of design, not whether something looks pretty or not. If we're looking at just like ease of information access, I like Ahrefs a little bit more. But yeah, it's not quite as easy to drill down into like organic trends from the homepage as it is in SEMrush. So I like the organic traffic feature more in SEMrush than I do in Ahrefs. But again, a lot of this kind of comes down to personal preference. So here you see the same deal, right? But I guess a feature difference is here I can't toggle, like if I just wanted to see, positions 1 through 3, I wouldn't be able to do that. Whereas here they've got these nice filters set up. So that's a point to SEMrush for sure. And then, let me just see what the traffic differential is. So here SEMrush is giving me 286K, and then here it's giving me a lot lower. If this were the case, I'd probably just take the average of what the two tools are telling me. Short of actually knowing the webmaster and asking them for their numbers or owning the website yourself, that's usually the best you can do. Or maybe if you did have a site in the niche and you knew from experience, because you're comparing SEMrush or Ahrefs traffic to traffic data to what you have in Google Webmaster Tools, then maybe you could, then in that case, you can make some educated assumptions about how accurate either of these tools are or aren't for that particular niche, because it does vary by niche. And by the way, if you're wondering where they get their information from, some of it's some of it they gather themselves, like the backlink data, for example, because Ahrefs, SEMrush have bots crawling the internet constantly, following links and basically scraping the entire linked internet. But the traffic data they actually buy, at least I think the majority of it in the case of both companies. So it's kind of crazy. They buy it from a data broker whose name I can't remember right now. But yeah, that's how they're getting these numbers that they're showing you. And the data broker that they're buying from, they get that data from, I think, just different plugins that people use in Chrome and, other browsers. So it's interesting. And I guess it kind of freaked me out a little bit when I realized that this was essentially bot data, at least a lot of it, but it is what it is. So let's see. And then the last thing I want to show you before we sign off here is just the backlinks. So actually, sorry, I got ahead of myself. One more thing. So if we're comparing, this is why I said I don't really like authority score. So here, these guys have an authority score of 43. Whereas Ahrefs gives them a domain rank of 35. I tend to trust domain rank more based on what I've seen with this site and the caliber of links it has, or kind of the lack of really high caliber links. I would be a lot more comfortable putting it at a 35 than a 40 plus, like SEMrush. So that's one of the reasons I think Ahrefs is slightly better from purely from a link analysis standpoint. For organic traffic, for paid traffic, I like SEMrush more, but if I'm just doing link analysis, I'd probably prefer SEMrush. So then we'll just compare the backlinks profile, and then that will be it for this video. And the more extensive SEMrush versus Ahrefs video will appear will appear here shortly. So yeah, to do apples to apples, backlink analytics, and then I don't want to compare. I just want, yep. So yeah, you get these different charts, but really what you want to see are, why is it? Yeah, sorry, I keep missing that. And then here, I see the backlinks in Href. So yeah, I don't know. This just to me, it's a little bit noisier, and I think SEMrush doesn't quite collect as many as many links as Ahrefs does. If I were to do a link analysis, I would use Ahrefs. I do link type, do follow. Let's compare actually to see what's my total here for follow. Yeah, so then I got to limit it to 1. So this is giving me 561, and then this is giving me 420 do follows. Huh, that's interesting. So SEMrush, assuming I'm using this correctly, is actually showing me more. So maybe the crawlers have improved, but also one thing to keep in mind, you don't want to like a crawler that's going to pick up like every single link necessarily, because there are a lot of links that sort of don't matter and shouldn't even be taken into consideration. But yeah, then I sort domain rank had a low and basically worked through the link opportunities there. So yeah, for link analysis, I definitely prefer Ahrefs. The interface here is just a little bit less cluttered. It's visually easier for me. Whereas with SEMrush, I do appreciate the complexity that they have when it comes to traffic analysis and keyword research in particular. But for link analysis, Ahrefs gets the slight edge. So that's the video. I think SEMrush is a really good all-in-one SEO tool. If you're just getting started, click the link in the video description below for that 7-day free trial. I think it works for most people. It's going to work for SEO newbies. It's going to work for power users who use multiple softwares and want to, triangulate what they're seeing in SEMrush, Ahrefs, and maybe like ProRank Tracker. And it's going to work for, really anybody from casual to expert webmasters. And the only thing I would say it doesn't shine in is the link analysis. I think Ahrefs does that a little bit better. So if you're just purely looking to build links, get Ahrefs. But if you're looking for that all-in-one SEO tool that has detailed traffic data and good competitor comparisons, SEMrush is definitely a great choice. And in the next video, I'm going to show you a more extensive side-by-side comparison so you can really see which product wins, with each exact feature. And I'll go into a little more detail in each of those. So keep watching if you are still on the fence. And my upcoming SEMrush versus Ahrefs video should help you make that final buying decision. And then you're off to the races, analyzing traffic, building links, and running SEO like the boss that you are. All right. Thanks, everybody.